Welcome back to On the Move with Victor Shi. This is Victor Shi. It is Wednesday, June 14th, and today I come to you one day after Donald Trump was arraigned in a federal courthouse in Miami, Florida, where he became the first president ever to be arrested on federal charges. What's more, this is his second arrest of his life, and it likely won't be his last. Today, we are going to focus not on the legal aspect of the Trump arrest, but instead the national security aspect of Trump's arrest. How mobilized are his supporters? How mobilized is the far right? How big of a threat does the far right still pose in our society? These are questions that my guest today has the answers to, and that guest is, of course, the amazing, incomparable, fearless Malcolm Nance, who I think is still on Ukraine time, but he's joining me this morning. Malcolm, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Well, you're welcome. I'm on East Coast time, but like I said, my day begins in Ukraine.
Yeah, which means you wake up at like 3 a.m., right?
Yeah. So, and that's late, right? That's like noon.
Wow. Yeah.
So, but I'm glad we're having this discussion because it's very important. I think a lot of the things that are getting left in the woodwork are, they're focusing so much on the political aspects of this.
Yeah.
Maybe we should focus on what was actually stolen.
Yes.
And as someone who, I held a top secret SCI security clearance for 3 decades, and I've handled documents very similar to this. So let's get into that, and then we can talk about what the right-wing extremist world is thinking.
Let's get into that component of it, because I think for so many people who haven't worked in government before, last year I had the opportunity to work at the White House just as an intern. And even then I had to deal with some classified information. At the end of the internship, I was sat down by an ethics lawyer and told that I have to return everything back to the White House before I left. Talk to us about kind of the seriousness of taking classified information, not just that, but repeatedly refusing to turn them over, and kind of what we found in that indictment as it relates to what Trump stole and why that's such a big deal.
Yeah. Well, first, if you see me sweating, that's because I'm feeling the heat from my entire career of having been intensely careful about not violating the trust of the people of the United States by mishandling, misusing, or forgetting and accidentally disclosing or removing or destroying any classified information that I came in contact with. My security clearance process started in 1981. It was completed in 1982. It took a year for me to get my top secret SCI. And throughout my career, because I was in a higher level of intelligence, I was in the cryptologic intelligence world, which, if you saw caveats like SI, special intelligence, which is the name of my, it's actually the name of my Substack.
Yeah.
But it's a much, much higher level than top secret. Even the, the lowest cryptologic secrets are higher than top secret. And by knowing that these secrets could do harm to the people of the United States, could compromise our sources, or in one instance, which I'll talk about a little bit, could actually cost people their lives. It physically made me sick in one instance where I almost accidentally left a building, but I didn't. But I knew that if I had made that mistake, I would have ended my career, I would have lost my clearance, and worse, I would have lost the trust of the people of the United States. And that's what a security clearance is. It's trust in you. When they read you into the program and they give you that document, it tells you what these programs could be,
right,
or what they are, and they trust you to maintain loyalty. So even you as an intern in the White House, you would have had you would have had exposure clearance, right?
Yeah.
So just in case you're walking down the hall and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff says, I don't care, we're going to use atomic bombs to blow up, Bali High. Well, that is a secret.
Right.
Not something you're supposed to hear. But they entrusted you with that, and at the end of your time, they debriefed you and warned you could go to prison if you expose this material. And that's where we are. That's the baseline of this discussion. The material puts people in prison, and it has for a very long time. And let's see what Donald Trump has done.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, when you see those pictures of the indictment, for anyone who hasn't read the indictment yet, go read the indictment, because it is so readable and just well written. But I'm wondering, for you as someone who has kind of been in this intelligence community and has dealt with classified information, you see Kevin McCarthy saying, well, it was just in a bathroom. And well, for me at least, when I saw those pictures, it was just so sickening to see them in a bathroom or on the stage, just out in the public, and people who don't have security clearances had access to basically accessing that information. And so I'm wondering kind of how big of a threat that posed, but also more broadly, kind of the national security implications this has for our current moment. How do you think this impacts how countries view President Biden, how countries view kind of their ability to share classified information with us?
Yeah. Well, first, let's, for the rest of this discussion, throw out politics.
Yeah.
Okay. That, what Kevin McCarthy was trying to do was muddy the waters and say there's no difference between Hillary Clinton, which they found no classified, Joe Biden, which, I think it was 12 documents over 40 years. That's pretty good. Virtually every president has these accidental document disclosures or packed away. And Donald Trump, which was an act of where he specifically took specific material and decided that he would keep them for his own purposes.
Yeah.
To be honest, the phrase that we're looking at here is document theft. Okay. Last person we talked about this with, Edward Snowden, went through systems, hunted down materials, scraped what he wanted, stole them, removed them from a secure compartmented information facility, which is the only place this material is authorized. Now, granted, the Oval Office, by all intents and purposes, is considered a SCIF, right? It's a sensitive compartmented information facility. This is where you're allowed to keep and store top secret material by dint of the fact that it has the adequate number of guards and safeguards and controls on that place. So the president can leave top secret on his desk, but it's his staff and, the National Security Council staff, the special security officer for the White House, who really are responsible for making sure people take those materials at the end of the day, take that big gray safe, put it inside the appropriate file, slam that thing shut, spin the dial 3 times, so that the cleaning ladies don't actually have to expose themselves to plans of blowing up Iran. So Kevin McCarthy is trying to play politics with what is simply a deadly, deadly situation. Because the materials that I saw, and I'm going to be writing a Substack specifically on the titles of the documents as the FBI saw them. And I'm going to explain in very general, non-classified terms, how dangerous the name of the document is. So when you talk about America's nuclear weapons capabilities and the United States' ability to defend itself against attack by an enemy, why would the president of the United States keep a document whose only value is to a foreign power to most efficiently destroy the armed forces and defenses of America? Why? Because let me tell you something. I do a podcast called Black Man Spy.
Yep.
And I always read a quote by Rudyard Kipling. And one of Rudyard Kipling's famous quotes is about the 6 serving men, right? Who, what, when, where, and how. But the most important is always why.
Yeah.
I mean, we can collect intelligence all day. I was an intelligence collector, right? And the period of history that I operated in, I didn't have analysts. I had to analyze it as well. I had to fuse that intelligence. I had to bring it all together. But at the end of the day, every time I would look at something like, Libyan sandwich making, at their secret facility in Malta, my question is always going to end with, why do they have a secret sandwich making facility in Malta? Right? They don't like the shawarma that they get in Valletta. Well, there's something to that. That leads me to everything. The question you must ask at every time about Donald Trump with regards to these documents is simply why. And no other question. Because if you can't answer that, and I suspect we're going to find out, and we might not like the answer.
because so far it's perplexing to wonder why exactly he is so I mean, he was so obsessed with these documents. I mean, at one point it was like, it's my documents, you don't take what belongs to me. Frankly, it belongs to the American people, but it's just kind of this obsession that he had with these documents. And like you said, it's just, why did he want these? And I think the other day Chris Christie was saying, it's like ego run amok, like vanity run amok, and it really is. I mean, this is just not normal behavior, and I think it's good that the entire country is kind of seeing this process play out.
My problem with this is, and like I said, I'm writing a Substack one, and I have to be very careful, so careful that I have to send it into the publication review board to make sure I'm not divulging anything. But my problem with how he did this is he seemed to view these documents, and this is the only way I can put it, as currency, banknotes. Right. And I suspect some of those documents to him look like a stack of $100 bills that went to the sky. Or were blackmail material that he intended to use at some future date, perhaps against the people of the United States. We have already seen that he tried to extort President Zelensky out of hundreds of millions of dollars of missiles that we were selling and delivering to Ukraine, unless he came out and carried out a fake investigation of Joe Biden in order to say that Joe Biden was under investigation for public corruption and the public prosecutor of Ukraine was looking into it. That's all he wanted, was dirt. He wanted to blackmail Joe Biden. But to do it, he had to literally use extortion. And the extortion that he had was also, there's a reason Ukraine needed those 1,500 Javelin anti-tank missiles, because without them, Russia would have walked over that country. Speaking as a person who went to Javelin anti-tank missile school for the Ukrainian army, all right, and met people who have killed Russian tanks with javelins, those things saved Ukraine. I think in the back of Donald Trump's head, he thought, if I don't give them this, that country could fall. So they're going to give me what I want. And I suspect a lot of these other documents to him are either like bearer bonds, gold bearer bonds, and mean cash to him, because every other spy has been motivated. You're only motivated by one or two things: ideology or money. And 99% of the time, it's money.
That is chilling to me. Let's move on to the right-wing kind of Trump supporter kind of group, because before yesterday's indictment, Donald Trump was calling for his crowd to go to Miami. He said it would be this huge crowd, but really it didn't amount to anything too much. In fact, there were a lot of anti-Trump folks who were within the crowd. So I guess based off of what you saw yesterday, what does that tell you about the Trump base and the potential threat they pose? Is it as big as what it once was in 2020? Is it growing? Kind of give us that assessment that you look at it.
Yeah. Okay. As you guys know, I wrote a book last year called "They Want to Kill Americans."
Yes,
it was about the militias, the terrorists, and deranged ideology of the Trump insurgency. We are not in a Cold War. We are not in a civil war. We are in a low-grade insurgency, a phase 1 insurgency, is how Special Operations Command would entitle this. This means that it is now at the political level, with occasional flashes of terrorism or armed civil disobedience. January 6th, for whatever you want to say it was still a case of civil disobedience that literally moved its way to sedition. 40,000 people attended the rally, angry, upset, and they're on orders of Donald Trump. Right. But one of the things that I think that is a guardrail is that they all knew you can't bring weapons into Washington, D.C. Yes, there were weapons in that crowd. There were people with handguns, other weapons, but long rifles, for a real rebellion. If you're going to have the French barricade or to redo the Paris communes, you're going to have to get some rifles, right? And you're going to live out Les Miserables, which is exactly what happened. Once their spirit was broken, once they had people that were starting to get arrested. The actual participants in January 6th saw this for what it was. Don't watch them. Those people are going to jail. The people you need to watch are the Marjorie Taylor Greenes. You need to watch the Lauren Boeberts. You need to watch the mouthpieces who think that they are picking up on the signal that is coming from the base and the more radical they get, because look, they go to gas stations, they go to coffee shops, and they go get that. We need to go get them. We need to go do something about this. I monitor these people all the time. I was watching on January 6th. I had 6 independent researchers watching not the news media feed of what was going on. We were watching the internal live streams of the Proud Boys and the insurgents. And I saw the first punches thrown down at the Western Steps. And I knew this is going to get out of hand.
Right.
All I was wondering was, will it get out of hand to the point where they have to break out into mass gunfire? And it does look like Les Miserables, right? Just cannons brought up to the street, so it hasn't happened in the United States. We haven't used a cannon since the Shays Rebellion on American citizens, right? And actually very close to where I live. But the point is, when you bring cannons, that's when you know you're going to put down your rebellion. I think that within the American psyche of the right wing, they bump up against their little law and order gene, and they think that they shouldn't go past X because it will involve cops having to do naughty things. I think it's more than that. I wrote this entire book about their base mindset is that they no longer care about decency. They no longer care about you, especially you, Victor. You're young, you vote, and you're Asian. So right now, I mean, and not only that, you're a leader in a movement that's putting them out of power. You are a better person for their ire than Joe Biden. And this is why we have to watch for these little flashes in the pants of, when people come on Twitter and start making death threats against you personally. There's a guy named Jay Carell right now, Jewish American former soldier. They're out there putting his address out and doxing him with the intent to harm him. But you also have people saying, when Donald Trump says, that Jack Smith's wife is a liberal Democrat, he's targeting her. It's the individuals who will go and do lone wolf or known wolf acts of terrorism that if they get away with it, that will incite further snowballing of small groups. Let me finish with this. I wrote a scenario in my book that was totally fictional by a former military guy who says, hey, if you're going to consider us terrorists, let's be terrorists. And they create a terrorist group called the Second Sons of Liberty. Mark my words, somebody will eventually do a terrorist group and call it the Second Sons of Liberty, just like Timothy McVeigh and the Order used, the Turner Diaries as a template. And what they did was they used drones to drop bombs on liberals, just like we're seeing in Ukraine, thinking, hey, two can play this game. It will be an act of individual terrorism, but if it's not slammed down hard with gunfire, SWAT teams aren't earning their pay, that's when you'll see things start getting out of hand. But look, I went through SWAT officer school back in 1999 with Capitol Hill Police. When I was in the military, I went through a SWAT officer's course, and LAPD SWAT guys were our trainers. And you know what they said? Cops like to shoot, and they really like to shoot automatic weapons. And that is the only deterrent that is stopping the right wing right now.
So, you mentioned Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert in that world of just crazy mouthpieces. And it really feels like it's like just two completely different realities, two, like one earth and another earth. How should we even deal with those type of people? And I want to ask you this in the context of maybe the Trump kind of legal challenges that are expected to come. I mean, this probably won't be the last time he gets arrested. What is the way that law enforcement, what is the way that ordinary people should kind of look at what's happening on the other side and respond right now?
Okay. Now I'm going to put on my disinformation, psychological warfare, military influence operations hat, which it's not like I've had to do that over 40 years. But, I worked in the Middle East, and our job was, I spoke Arabic. My job was to help people, understand America's message or give them the message that we want. There is only one way to deal with the Lauren Boeberts and the Marjorie Taylor Greene, and this is where the Democratic Party is failing. And I hope that younger Democrats and younger independents who really don't want this to be seen as their yardstick can start managing the Marjorie Taylor Greenes and the Lauren Boeberts in their own environment. First off, they want credibility. And they gain credibility by coming up and pretending to legislate. You saw Marjorie Taylor Greene said she's announcing that she's putting a rider on, whatever piece of legislation in order to, to investigate Jack Smith or defund Jack Smith. I'm going to use a technical intelligence term that I think everyone should adopt when confronting these people. The first thing you need to say to them is, "You're crazy." No.
Yeah.
This sounds funny, right? What I want you to do, this is called meta-narrative framing. It is a box that you are going to put around them. We know that she's nuts. We know that she has a big mouth. We know that she has 3 toes, whatever it is that you want to say about her. But what people don't do is they don't speak in the language of the conservatives and their base. We have for those of you who are in the armed forces, you'll remember this. When you're making a joke about your opponent in your opponent's face, you never make a joke that your friends will laugh at. You make a joke that his friends will laugh at. And with Marjorie Taylor Greene, Laura Boebert, all of those, the Jack Kingston, all the rest of these guys, you have to come and give a simple meta-narrative. One, you're crazy. You are out of the norm. I don't know what's wrong with you. All right? What you are is you're dangerous. You shouldn't even be in this building. Very few people have ever confronted them with that. What you're doing is stupid. Right? They don't know how to process that because that is how their base processes all of their attacks against liberals and Democrats. So, I made a joke with Tiffany Cross and Elie Mystal, and I said, we should form a consulting company for this upcoming election. Actually speak plainly to the Walmart voter. All right. But what you want to do is when you're going to call those people out, don't do it with impassion. Don't do it with reason. Do it with the language their base understands and will make them think, well, yeah, she sure is crazy. And then explain why she's crazy. Everything this woman has said to you is a lie, and I can prove it. If you don't care, then you don't care about the American flag.
That is fascinating. We learn something new every single time. Meta-narrative framing, that is fascinating. And just, simple, direct, blunt talk and truthful talk, really. But we
don't because we want to be nice.
Right, exactly.
And they rely on you wanting to be nice.
Yeah. It's the whole, Michelle Obama thing, when they go low, we go high. It's time for us to kind of get down that level and call them out for who they are, not be afraid of kind of being too nice, because they are not, and they don't have that shame. I think
we should start framing them as professional parents.
Yeah, I agree. I have one last question, which is, what do you hope, kind of, as we're in this historic moment, what do you hope America knows about kind of what Trump did in this case and the threat that he and his supporters kind of still pose in our democracy?
First, let me give you a simple meta-narrative framing for the entirety of the Trump document scandal. He stole America's secrets and he kept them, and I want to know why.
Yeah.
Done. I have just framed the entire thing. And then you go, well, he's allowed to keep that. Why?
Yeah.
No. He's allowed to do that. Every question should be, he stole documents. Tell me why. What was he? Were they $100 bills to them? Were they something he could trade on? You tell me why he stole them. Why did Joe Biden have documents in his house? It was a mistake. He didn't steal them. Why did Donald Trump steal the documents? Why did he keep them in the bathroom? He had 2 Chinese spies in his building, and he had a fake Rothschild. Okay? Why? Why did he keep them? Why did he need plans for the invasion of Iran? That's only valuable to Israel and Saudi Arabia. Did he have weapons? I want to know if he had actual plans of atomic bombs in their employment. That means he was going to sell it to Saudi Arabia, period. No other question.
Well, I think that is the best way to end this episode, and with some simple meta-narrative framing. Malcolm Nance, thank you so much for joining me this morning, and thank you for all that you do. I know that I appreciate it, and I know so many other people appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, just keep those young kids voting.
We'll try. Thanks so much, Malcolm.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye. What a powerful episode that was with Malcolm Nance. I learned something new, like I always do when I talk to Malcolm, which is this time it's meta narrative framing, really kind of showing things in direct and blunt terms. Marjorie Taylor Greene is crazy, the right is crazy, but really kind of starting off with that because that's how the right operates. And it's fascinating to hear Malcolm talk about that. But it's just kind of this historic moment, and we have to make sure that we cover it accurately, but also honestly in a way that people will understand, because not a lot of people understand the way that government functions. Not a lot of people understand the classified process, the classified information, and the significance of that. But just put it in simple terms, I think is so important, especially for this unprecedented time. And so we will definitely keep on doing that. And I thank Malcolm for his just simple explanations, his really clear explanations, and really making it apparent to everyone the stakes of what is kind of unfolding right now. So thank you, Malcolm. Thank you for joining me this morning. Just a couple of other things, just kind of immediate reactions yesterday. I mean, we saw this historic moment of Donald Trump, surrendering himself. He turned himself in, got arrested. He pled not guilty, which is a big surprise. But the big thing that really stuck out to me yesterday, based off of some of the public available recording, there wasn't any photos or direct reporting from inside the courtroom because the judge didn't allow cell phones. But Lisa Rubin from MSNBC was reporting that apparently Jack Smith was staring down Trump the entire time, even to the point where, as he left to, get out of the door, Jack Smith was staring him down, which is such an image to me to imagine Jack Smith, his laser focused eyes staring down Donald Trump. And the rumor is that Donald Trump did not look back at him once. Instead, Donald Trump looked at the reporters as he was exiting, suggesting this sort of, last ditch effort to hopefully sway some reporters to intimidate him. He thought he was very much still the president, whereas, in a court of law, you are just an ordinary person in an ordinary courtroom facing the law and facing the truth. And no reporter can save you in that moment. But Donald Trump didn't just look at Jack Smith, but he looked at the reporters. He stared down the reporters, paused, and looked at them. And that is just an image of, I think that tells you everything you need to know about Donald Trump. When he is facing the most kind of extreme situation, the most danger, what he relies on is other people covering for him. And that is chilling. And that's something that I won't get out of my mind anytime soon. But at least the image of Jack Smith staring down Donald Trump is something that I think is very powerful in the sense that, Donald Trump tweeted the other day that Jack Smith is scared of him, that, he knows how weak this case is. Jack Smith knows how strong this case is. Jack Smith knows what he's doing, and Jack Smith is not afraid of Donald Trump. He's prosecuted war criminals before. I mean, he's dealt with much worse than Donald Trump. So to Donald Trump, I think he should be quite concerned with what's going to happen, because Jack Smith is also rolling ahead with January 6th investigations. There's just so much happening right now. And so I think it spells a lot of doom for Donald Trump. We'll keep following this case in the days and I'm sure weeks and months to come, but we have a packed rest of the week in for you. It's Wednesday, which means we're officially kind of over the hump, or almost over the hump. Tomorrow we have SC Cup joining me at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, to talk about some of the Republican response and really put a political lens into this. We covered the legal lens with Allison Gill on Tuesday. We covered today the national security lens and some, what this means about our national security and safety. And then tomorrow we're going to have on the political lens to talk about kind of what this means for the Republican Party writ large and what some of the responses have been and what that shows about that side of things and how Democrats should respond. And then on Friday, we're going to have on one of my favorite guests, Simone Sanders Townsend. Sorry, it's a long last name. Simone Sanders Townsend will join me on Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern, right here on youtube.com/Politicon or on Twitter. My handle is VictorShe2020. We'll be live on Twitter as well as YouTube every day. So join us then. Thank you everyone for watching this morning. Thank you everyone for sharing this moment in history. It's a big moment, but it requires all of us to go out there and act and make sure that everyone knows about this because it's so important for our country and our democracy and our rule of law. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great rest of your Wednesday.